David Horowitz, I appreciate you joining us. And so there's my little, I don't know, analysis of the whole process and I guess growing up a little bit. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Alex.
So you got the floor till the bottom of the hour. Where should we start?
95% of the issues. I've never been, like you, I've never been to Israel. And I think you were referring to a book I wrote in 2004 called Unholy Alliance.
That was it.
About the alliance between the left and the terrorists. The two of the top organizers, actually the chairwoman of the Women's March against Trump, Linda Sarsour, is from a Hamas family and a supporter of Sharia law. So she's anti-female, anti-West, pro-terrorist. She's the chairwoman they chose for the march. And Razmia Odeh is one of the organizers of that march. She is a convicted terrorist. She blew up a supermarket and killed 2 students way back when. I guess she served her time and now she's in the United States. But the left is just full-throated in defense. We have a terrorist front on our campuses, which I've conducted a lonely crusade against. The Muslim Students Association and the Students for Justice in Palestine are 2 Muslim Brotherhood fronts. They're pro-terrorist, and they have the entire political left on the campus lined up for their agendas, which is a destruction of Israel and the Jews in the first instance. But as we know, actually more Christians have been slaughtered by these maniacs than Jews. This book I've just done, Big Agenda, it's going to be number 6 on the Times bestseller list on Sunday, which pleases me. I've written a lot of books. I've had bestsellers before. This particularly pleases me because we are in a civil war, as I'm sure you understand, and I've been telling your listeners. This is civil war time. It's interesting, the Democrats call it resistance. And I actually saw a Democratic strategist, operative on Fox, say there's a difference between resistance and obstruction. Because, of course, only the bad Republicans obstruct things. But there is a difference. Obstruction is you want to stop a policy or a piece of legislation. Resistance is what you did to the Nazis. Resistance is an existential threat. It's war. And, incoming presidents normally get according to Gallup, 7 months honeymoon, which is what our American political framework is about, peaceful transition of power. You let the other guy get in. We're all part of one community. What we saw in the confirmation process was a witch hunt.
Sure. Well, let me just add this, and because, I didn't really prepare for the interview, but I remember reading the book, I guess, 10 years ago. I guess it's 12 years ago, How Time Flies. That was it. It was Unholy Alliance. And I knew a lot of it was true because I'd done research, but it was so unbelievable that the left would combine with this. And it seems like they've gone completely mentally ill. Nancy Pelosi thinks Bush is still in office. In the same press conference, Maxine Waters thinks that Russia invaded Korea. It does seem like they've gone insane. So you're the first guy that laid all this out. Just a few minutes before we get into your book, how did you know? How did you know that they were really having this alliance and planning this insane takeover?
Because I was part of the left. I was brought up by American communists who were part of a vast international conspiracy to help the Russians and the Soviets win the Cold War. So I know these people in my bones. They're anti-Americans. There never was an anti-war movement in this country. It's always an anti-American movement. And that's where I got out of the left. When America was forced by the left, which is now in control of the Democratic Party, forced to withdraw from Vietnam, the communists proceeded to slaughter 2.5 million peasants in Indochina. And there wasn't not one protest of that. And that showed me that I was among evil people. Barack Obama comes from the same political background I do. He's raised by communists. The difference is he never left the communist left. And we're lucky that we survived those 8 years. And we're even luckier to have somebody like Trump. There's always been fighters out there. You're a fighter, Rush Limbaugh's a fighter, but there are no Republican fighters.
And we've never had a president who would be a watchdog over the media, who was so smart and would take them to task. I mean, he's destroying what's left of their power before our eyes. I don't know if you had time to see that press conference yesterday, but it was just stunning how they are absolutely in a full panic and just don't know what to do, that someone already now has a platform bigger than them to counter these arrogant bullies.
Exactly. I mean, they're in an alternate reality. I watched the Chris Matthews take on it, and they had a big headline, the Trump rant. And then they showed clip after clip of this genial fellow talking very rationally, having a good time, and pointing out what devious, dishonest people they are. And they think that people watching it can't see that this is not a rant. This is a perfectly rational presentation. But that was true during the whole campaign. I mean, the attacks on Trump were so lunatic.
So what are they going to do? I mean, you're a guy that saw the future way back. I mean, it's true. You're one of the most focused, cogent, over the horizon thinkers out there. What's positive? What's negative? What do you see happening? Let's get into your book. I mean, a lot of what you're talking about Trump is doing, how do we save this country? Because that's how we obviously defeat the globalists and the leftists, is with prosperity and really having a big table, a big tent, bringing people together. They're the ones trying to divide. So, I mean, this book is absolute, needed medicine for a very, very sick country. I mean, we talked about how he's inherited this disaster.
I wrote it as a guide. First of all, we're at the beginning of 4 years. We are in a civil war, and the left is not going to let up. And as anybody knows who's trying to persuade them of anything, you can't persuade them.
It's a cult.
It's a cult. I was going to say, it's a religious movement. It's based on the Christian model. The world is a fallen place, so everybody's oppressed except white people who are the oppressed.
I just started realizing that recently. It's like they've taken like super oppressive forms of Christianity. I'm a Christian, and then oppress everyone that they're bad, and then only the high priests are good, and then you've got to go bow down to them, and then it's a cult.
They are hellfire and damnation preachers. I mean, that's why they're so effective politically. It's always a moral indictment. We are the army of the saints. We're going to save the world. You are the party of the devil. And that's the way they act. That's the way they think. That's the way they're such horrific people. And they're very seductive because they're always putting forward this pie in the sky future, social justice, communism, socialism. Of course, the communism got discredited. Socialism.
They never look at what's happening in Venezuela or Cuba or anywhere. They just keep saying it's wonderful.
It's not about this world. It's about the next. Only the next is a world that they think they can create. Did your parents, communist, ever wake up? Never. No. My father died a fan of Brezhnev.
Good Lord. That's sad. Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, I lost every friend when I voted for Ronald Reagan. And that's what I have to say. That's what's so refreshing about Trump. He doesn't back down. And the Trumpers, everybody that supported Trump, are not intimidated by this, leftist moral indictment. And here's the thing. Why do they sympathize? Why are they so soft on the Islamic terrorists? The answer is because they're people of color. You ever think about that phrase? I mean, I've written about this in the book, Big Agenda, but the phrase people of color, it's not English. We don't say crayons of color. It's a French construction. It's completely ideological. But when you think about it for a moment, this is what its function is. If you look at Mexico, it's composed of two ethnic groups, the main ethnic groups. One, the descendants of the conquistadors who slaughtered the indigenous Indians, and the other, the descendants of the indigenous Indians. But when they cross the border into America, they're both people of color. So they're deserving of special sensitivities, special privileges.
Sure, Western openness and hospitality is being manipulated. They're taking our Christian guilt and then transmuting it into this brainwashing.
Exactly. But it's racist. I have a whole chapter in my book called The Achilles Heel of the Democratic Party, which is their control of the inner cities. The Democratic Party is the party of racism.
David Horowitz, your Skype's breaking up just for a second.
Yeah.
Sure, your Skype was breaking up to start over, and I want to have you back for a full hour soon. We'll kind of maybe have you calling on phone, but be via Skype. Skype's having a few problems here, but it's great to be able to see you there. And the time we have left, let's talk about how we defeat them, what you think they're doing, your biggest concerns, more about the book, and what Trump needs to do. Because, I mean, I'm really concerned. I've never seen, if I went on air and said somebody needs to kill Trump, I would get arrested because that's organizing a criminal operation. There's so many comedians and movie stars and producers and newspapers saying, kill him, that it's just organized crime. And I'm not looking for a fight, but, you know, if they get into a physical altercation, I don't know. I mean, we got 5 minutes left. Where do you see all this going?
I think we're headed for 4 years of war. I think our greatest strength is that middle America, people have waked up. The media has no credibility, which is tremendous advantage. Trump has shown the way to blow up political correctness. That's a term, political correctness, that was invented by Mao Zedong, the greatest mass murderer in human history. It's to keep people in line, which is what it does. And Republicans have generally been intimidated. What gives me hope is that now we have a generation of Republicans, of conservatives, who are not intimidated. They're not intimidated by this media and by all the culture, you know, the universities, the K-12 schools are all run by the left of liberation. And my one fear is that they will kill Trump because there's no Republican who can replace him at the moment.
What do you think of Trump? I mean, I've got to say, I've never gushed over somebody like this. 2 years ago, I supported him because the elites were attacking him. That was clear. It was real attacks. He had an America First agenda. I liked all that. But now he's just, I've never seen anything like it. And I've studied history. I mean, just the stamina, the will, the way he laughs it all off, the attacks on his family. I mean, this guy, if they're dumb enough to kill him, they are going to create the super martyr of all time. I
agree. I was won over to Trump. And it's because I'm very sensitive to this issue of the party. It's really a communist party line, political correctness. I see how intimidated people are. There's no other Republican you could think of who on national TV in front of 50 million people would look Hillary Clinton in the eye and say, you're a liar and a crook, which she is. And that's a protective shield. So that, you know, it's the vulnerable woman that protects her from any kind of serious criticism. And then, of course, she comes out, you know, I'm the strong woman. I'm going to be, anyway, anybody who doubts I can be president is a sexist. I don't see, I mean, there are two people who are friends of mine around Trump, Steve Bannon and Steve Miller, who also come from a liberal democratic background. So they have the passion for politics that people on the left have. They're fearless. But there's no out front leader that I can see in the Democratic Party. Some are rising like Tim Cotton.
I was about to say, they have no leadership. The Democrats have no leadership.
Well, they're all these aging communists.
And globally, nationalism and a rediscovery of just normal human activity. I don't even call it conservatism. There's just a revolt against this suffocating mafia of control freaks.
That's why I say it's the grassroots. When I came into the right, I said, where is the grassroots army? Where are the MoveOn.orgs, the Occupy Wall Streets, I mean, I don't want conservatives to be burning things in the streets.
Sure, but action, writing books, taking action, going to events.
And now they're out there. It's the Trumpers. They're out there. And if you ask, I mean, people have to be geared up for a war now. We have an American president who's a patriot, finally. We need to defend him and advance his policies. One of the things I wrote about in that book, Unholy Alliance, was the sanctuary cities, how They were created to attack the Patriot Act and to make it easier for terrorists to get into this country by two communist organizations, the ACLU and the Center for Constitutional Rights. And now it's all come to fruition. But the American people are against sanctuary cities. And
well, I mean, nobody else in the world except Europe would do something like that. It's globalist occupation using third world populations they've oppressed to bring them in, brainwash them, use them against us. But this whole prosperity message and what Trump's trying to deliver is so key. I'm just worried they're going to implode the economy like the Federal Reserve's trying to do before he gets his people in, so that they can try to, repudiate nationalism, just like the EU's trying with the Brexit. But I don't think that's going to work. And I think if they're successful, I think they're going to be held accountable for the recession or depression, not Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they're losing every public battle. That's very clear. I mean, there's nobody in the history of this country, probably the world, who has had such crap thrown at him and heaped on his head as Donald Trump. And he survived it. And he survived it because there's the people out there who can see.
And his poll numbers are going up, which panics him. David Horowitz, thank you so much for joining us. The book, Big Agenda, #6 on the New York Times bestseller list this weekend. I want to have you back up via Skype, maybe with phone as well, so we get better audio. But amazing interview. And boy, you were right with that book back in 2004, Unholy Alliance. That thing reads like you were in a time machine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.